Die. Looks as if there's a new type of interference, but I think I've sorted it out this time. You'll want to correct that. Greetings! I am Lord Cadrian de Flynn, and I am a wizard. Greetings to you, my guests. I am Lord Cadrian de Flynn, prisoner number whatever, here in Wizard Jail. And as I am serving out my sentence, I am conscripted to answer the questions of those, magical and non, out there who require the services of a diviner as my penance for crimes committed. If you aren't familiar with my full history, I urge you to go back and check earlier episodes of Ask the Wizard. It's all spelled out there, but today is kind of an interesting day. It's early spring, but unfortunately here it's the rainy season, and the countryside is getting absolutely inundated with, well, far more water than they need. So it's somewhat interesting. Normally, of course, I would be out there abjuring and divining solutions to this problem, but I'm here now. So I merely can watch as they employ the elementalists trying to siphon off as much water as possible and unsubmerge the fields and croplands and save the cattle and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, the best of magic sometimes pales in the cold fury of Mother Nature, eh? But we try. And from here, I can't, unfortunately, divine how everything will work out, but I'm very happy to tell you that Wizard Jail is placed on higher ground, and no danger of the dungeons down here flooding out, so got that going for me. Also of interest, Barbarian Deathmatch has begun another season, and this time I think I'm going to put my money on Lady Eleanor. Lady Eleanor, of course, of the Crushed Gauntlet. She's well, she's trained as a knight, but she's left the order, and she is running roughshod over the competition. Quite honestly, I think she has the combination of bloodthirst, skill, and endurance to be able to see through all the way to the finals. She's especially good with kicking techniques, which is odd because her order that she once belonged to specialized in the use of the broadsword, all those smashing strokes to defeat her foes. So she's developed a rather nasty two-punch of kicking them in the shins and then whoosh, cutting off their heads. She's already gotten 12 kills so far in this season, and I think she's going places. So yes, that's where my money is going. Now, of course, I recognize that the competition this year is as stiff as it's ever been, so that's my side on it. Of course, this is not the opinions of a professional diviner as to who will win. I, of course, because of the law of the land, cannot give such answers, even though they could easily be conjured into my mind with the appropriate spells. But I do have to acknowledge that the guild for Barbarian Deathmatch has made every effort to hide the actual events before they unfold magically. So it's quite a rocky road to try to divine such results. So those of you who want to get ahead by some shrewdly placed bets on a sure winner, I'm not going to help you there. So you're out of luck, I'm afraid. Other than that, yes, not much more to report, so Jailer, deliver me the question. And thank you. All right. Yeah. You could have at least transcribed it first. It's a good thing I'm a diviner, and this falls within my purview. And say, Preserve the colloquialisms, but we'll have to press on. To the great OmnusI. OmnusI in many worlds is a mark of a superior intellect, meaning one who knows. And the implication is one who knows a great deal. We's ear at the puckered lemon, charming, was having a great debate about why some wizard types seem to need to be half bookworms and some don't. Use knows most wizards are always lugging round heavy looking books, from which they spend goodly parts of the day looking at, writing in, or otherwise waving fingers at 'em and having arguments with themselves. But not all of 'em, I argued. I've been on a few raids. Treasure hunts. Charming. And we's had this fellow who didn't need all the heavy stuff the pointy ats crowds need. He's just seemed to be able to pull magic out of thin air. He did. Handy lad to have around, you know. Oh, he was full of himself, like all these wizardly types. No offense intended, eh? Anywho, this fellow, he'd get all bent if'n someone offed him a wizard. Preferred, who was it? Yeah, that's it. He called himself a saucier, I think. Anyways, I've got 5 silvers on ya being able to set it all straight, eh? From Grazadar the Green Toe. Charming. I suppose not. At least this one isn't guilty of kidnapping and tormenting and murdering a wizard. But, again, I will make quite clear that this fellow is not in a member of my world. Almost every world that has magic has its own rules and guidelines. I am familiar with a world that the puckered lemon graces, and it is a fantasy world where there are many, many flavors of magic. And of course, each of these flavors of magic follows different rules. There are wizards who, from their outer guise, look and appear much as I do, but they are given to keeping their knowledge in books of spells, from which they study and refresh their memories of these spells and use it to recharge their powers with mental exercises, keeping notes of all of their own theories and conclusions and discoveries in these books. It is a strength because it gives them great flexibility. They can instantly look into their books and discover all of the notes from obscure times and inferences that they may make, which gives them a great deal of flexibility. However, this book is also a great weakness in that if it is stolen or removed from the wizard is shorn of a great deal of his power and flexibility. All of that knowledge lost unless the wizard can reclaim it or wisely has a backup spellbook. Now, this being said, this is not the only way that magic is practiced on your world, Master of the Green Toe. There are other sorts of magical using folk who use different abilities. And the one you're interested in is the sorcerer. Now, the sorcerers practice magic that on its surface may look very much like the most commonly used magics done by proper wizards. However, their magic comes from a completely different source. Their magic comes from the blood that pumps through their veins. They have inherited a magical wellspring from which the outpouring of magic commences. It is a strength because they don't have to spend as much time as proper wizards do studying and analyzing and unlocking. No, it comes naturally from the accident of their birth to the experiences that they have and the wisdom that they learn through those experiences, and new ways that they can output their magic and new reservoirs of power that they unlock within themselves. This ability is something that affects a very, very tiny number of people, and as a result, these sorcerers are fairly rare. Many of them see these magics as a curse, because being undisciplined and really the expression of magic for them being so innately personal, there isn't many of soul present who can guide them through the changes that lead them along the path to the sorcerer. Many of them suppress these magical outpourings as much as they can, because they can't come to grips with the fact that an inheritance of raw, unchanneled magic is theirs to tap into. So as a result, these magical folk don't actually practice. Now, the ones who this magic is welcome to and they nurture and support it are able to plumb into depths of magic seemingly every bit as powerful as a properly trained wizard. But there are some drawbacks to the sorcerer's life. Yes, you have a little bit of extra time on your hands to do training and socialize and things. But rather than cultivating a powerful mind, sorcerers generally get by with their magic as an expression of their will. If they do not have a great sense of personal aura, their magic is stunted and weaker. Those who have great presence find that their magic channels freely from this expression, and as a result, this type of person who is a sorcerer is oftentimes, very charming when they want to be and very biting when they want to be. Another thing is that I was talking about flexibility of having a spell book and unpacking many, many, many secrets and spells along your journey. Well, sorcerers don't really get to do that. They may shape the direction that they learn their magic in, but ultimately, once they have selected their outpouring of the direction their magic goes, that's it. When they rise the next day and have their energy recovered, they don't have the luxury of changing what spells that they are prepared to throw at their foes like a wizard can. They use the same spells again and again and again. And while those spells may be potent, they frequently are. A few wizards are defenseless, and many of them look for a variety of ways of accomplishing their ends through their magic. They don't have the same flexibility as a wizard, and therefore they get to be fairly predictable. Powerful, but predictable. That is the lot of a sorcerer. Now, sorcerers generally sacrifice this flexibility the wizard has for power. And many sorcerers, as it is an art form for them rather than a craft for a proper wizard, develop touches and flourishes that makes their magic more potent in certain circumstances, or allows them to craft and sculpt their spells a bit differently than a proper wizard would. This in turn may make them appear to be the better spellcasters. Also, many of them keep an internal well of magic that allows them to outpour more magic in a given scenario than otherwise a wizard with their tightly controlled reservoir of power and carefully constructed magical structures and formulas may exceed those limits that normally a wizard would be tied to. This, again, makes wizards seem to be awfully attractive for those who are blessed with that bloodline. And in truth, I can understand the fascination for sorcery as opposed to wizardry. We wizards in my world are also used to, when we start displaying magical traits, we are then immediately snapped up and put to school to learn to use our powers to their fullest effect. No matter what level they are, they can be sharpened and honed, and eventually our potentiality can be fulfilled by good schooling and tutelage. My academy, for instance, We have many wizards who have already been through their most elementary training and learned their initial charms and enchantments and how to structure and incant their first spells and set their magic flowing through. Well, my academy perfects the process, and by the time they leave and graduate, they are proper wizards who are able to employ their skills to the fullest. Although life is a journey and they will continue to improve as they go, at least they are ready for their professional, futures by the time they're finished at the academy. In this way, we are somewhat more like sorcerers. Of course, we have our own restrictions as well, but this isn't the time and place. You're not interested in that. Also of interest and note is that the other types of spellcasters in that world, they have also different flavors, and understanding the differences is oftentimes key to dealing with those who use magic in such a world. For instance, if you see a fellow toting around a large book, oftentimes wizard, you know that this person may have a variety of magics, and that the next time that you meet with this person, they may have a completely different sort of magics for whatever task they see that is ahead of them. No magics, flair, and attitude, but no book? Well, could be a sorcerer, certainly. There are those who have other tricks up their sleeves, but if you look at somebody who is confident, with plenty of charisma on tap, and able to, conjure large fireballs and things, sorcerer is definitely a possibility. However, if they have a bent that their power comes from some other source, maybe something sinister or alien or otherwise unknowable, this person might be considered of a group calling themselves warlocks. They're a little bit easier to spot, actually. Warlocks, generally in a combat situation, rely heavily on a magical attack called an Eldritch Blast that sends a great force flying and smiting enemies. It's a potent attack for them. Although there are different flavors of warlocks, all of them generally tend to use this Eldritch Blast. It is oftentimes their first response and their last response to a conflict situation. So that is oftentimes the giveaway, although even that is a generalization. Some prefer other means, and many of them can pull off effects similar to wizards and sorcerers. Fireballs and lightning bolts and other such magics are within their purview. This, of course, has nothing to do with all of the other people who get their powers from other sources, most potently the power of their faith and the divine. Those generally have their powers that are banked more in how they directly influence the body, either in healing or in strengthening or weakening the bodies of those that they meet or fight against. So that is a totally different branch of magic, totally outside of the arcane studies that we wizards more easily cling to and comprehend, and that others have learned to dabble within as well. So, if you do meet somebody with a large book, and it is something that they refer to all the time, you can comfortably assume that that person is a technician of the craft of magic. They understand the inner workings of magic and are capable of diagnosing and understanding a wide variety of situations, magical and perhaps mundane. Many wizards also have other passions, but many of them are tied into the accumulation and understandings of magic. Those that don't seem to have that dedication to the craft but are still able to pull off such magics are still dangerous. They are sorcerers and therefore they have a birthright to magic. But once you've seen them use some of their spells, you have a generally pretty good idea of what they do, what they are capable of. And perhaps they don't have much greater range beyond that. If the person throws out blasts of magical force again and again and again and again and again, with a few other magical effects here and there, they very well may be a warlock. Some warlocks are dangerous and infernal. Some of them are mad. Some of them are, well, they mean well, but fight against a dark fate. Almost all of them have given up some portion of their essence, their soul or whatnot, in the furtherance of their power, and almost all of them are driven individuals for that purpose. So figuring out what their master is and what their aims are is often crucial for dealing with warlocks. But there are certain generalities that you can identify and plan against, but bear in mind, many spellcasters do their utmost to buck the trends that their professions saddle them with. And you will find that there are wizards, proper wizards, who, for some reason, learn how to strap on armor and charge into battle, casting spells along with sword strokes. You will find that there are sorcerers who hang back and are relatively quiet, only outputting their powers when it needs to be shown. And there are warlocks who pretend to be nothing magical at all and merely offer out hints and advice until the need really arises for them to break forth their power. So, be warned against trusting too much to stereotypes and snap judgments when it comes to magic users in general. It would be my recommendation for you. Is it unusual for these to occur in the same world, or in the same group even? No, not in your world. The nexus of potentials that a common adventuring group or mercenary band or what have you exists as oftentimes gathers these disparate forces from different backgrounds and puts them together as fate wills it, or the gods, whatever you feel. In this case, yes, you can find wizards and sorcerers traveling along, competing with each other, or, even more scarily, blending their abilities together to form a potent amplifier of each other's potentials. So, truly magic in all of its ways is mysterious and wondrous. I therefore highly urge you, since you do not appear to be a spellcaster yourself, Master Greentoe, be very careful. Magic is not to be taken lightly. And that is what I have to say to that. I think a fairly good treatise of the situation for your world, and many worlds like yours. If you've enjoyed this, I highly urge you to come back. Perhaps offer up a question of your own that's been burning in your mind or in your heart, and I will do my best to answer them. For I am Lord Cadrian de Flynn, Master Diviner, and prisoner here in Wizard Jail, here to serve at your pleasure. Thank you, and may the gods of magic smile upon you and give you the brightest destiny possible. Farewell.